Apapa, Tinkan, and Lekki ports, all in Lagos, cumulatively handle 85% of Nigeria's total container traffic, with Apapa and Tinkan being the busiest. Thus, it is no surprise that Nigerian ports rank low based on different indicators for port efficiency, with entrenched problems of delays, unofficial charges, stretched and outdated infrastructure, with technical breakdowns and security concerns. With Nigeria's large population, it is clear that improvements are required, as those involved in shipping or living in Lagos know too well. With every problem comes opportunities, and this is one clear opportunity that has been ignored for too long. Note that Nigeria has other ports, such as in Calabar, Akwa Ibom, Port Harcourt, Warri, as well as 9 states with direct access to the Atlantic Ocean. Like many dysfunctional things in Nigeria, when potential solutions are pointed out, authorities begin to reel out challenges and technical difficulties associated with the solutions. Citizens do not need to know technical details about dredging, infrastructure development, and so on. There are experts to tackle those. Citizens demand visionary leadership, strategic planning, and political will, as a case study of the United Arab Emirates demonstrates. UAE has one of the most successful examples of man-made deep sea ports in the world. It is also noteworthy that ports are not simply for serving the country directly, but an opportunity to serve as hubs to other regions of the world, just as in the case with the UAE. The UAE has a population of just over 11 million, yet has some of the most efficient ports in the world. Nigeria sure needs to diversify income generation as much as possible, and this has to move beyond being a cliche. Nigeria must take seriously the optimization of other ports outside of Lagos, development of multimodal transport systems, and not simply the construction of port terminals. Public-private partnerships, as in the case of the Lekki port, must be encouraged. Decentralizing port authority and governance and management to subnational levels must also be considered.
So you see, the Lagos port, you said we should leave there, and those are even the ones I want to talk about, right? Because when you look at the state of infrastructure in the ports, we have the Apapa port is more than 100 years old, the Tinkan port is more than 48 years old, and you look how dated the infrastructure are, and that is a huge part of what constitutes the inefficiencies at the port. So for the ports, even the current one that we have that is currently functional, they are not very efficient. So there has to be a significant infrastructural upgrade and also modernization of the entire porting system. Also, they need to adopt technology, because I don't know why we are still manually offloading and loading what's it called, as at this time as it is. Automate a large part of the process, reduce human interaction, and most importantly, corruption and security. I mean, at every point, if you're trying to bring in anything through the seaport, there is always someone waiting you carry. They are even worse than policemen. And beyond that, even after paying all the waiting you carried, you're not guaranteed that you have everything that you ordered for, particularly people who are shipping in cars. You see some different parts of the cars would have gotten missing before you even finish. The issues are plenty.
There is inefficiency, because when you look at it, you're right when you say that the western ports, Apapa, Tinkan, Lekki, account for large proportion. I'm not sure it accounts for 85%, but I concede that it accounts for
a significant
portion of our of our container traffic, and that is what sometimes basically leads to the inefficiency. But it's about economics. It's about business. The question you should ask is, why do shippers prefer to come to Lagos? So it's not like the options are not there. There's a One port, there's a Warri port, there's a Port Harcourt port. It's there. But the shippers prefer to come to Lagos. Why do they prefer to come to Lagos? Because Lagos is the economic nerve of Nigeria. Most of the manufacturing entities
and the proximity
are within and around Lagos. And if you want to ship, you will ship to the closest port to your business. So if you're saying a company, for instance, that has its operations in Nigeria, in Lagos, you go and dock in Port Harcourt, it doesn't make economic sense. So at the end of the day, it boils down to two things: infrastructure of moving items from the port down to where it's needed. And I think that when you think about it, the subnationals around those areas, the question is, what is the level of capital formation and businesses there? What's the nature of manufacturing activities that will prompt them to do a lot of, import? Because if there's a whole lot there that is happening around that axis, trust me, shippers, it's about naira and kobo. It's about, economics of scale. They look at it and they say, okay, it's cheaper for me. Because when I ship, I don't just want to ship containers in, I want to ship containers out. So at the end of the day, it's about economics. And so I am for, let's resolve the inefficiencies, but let's not discount the fact that we need to also ensure that the subnationals and the communities, the states around those ports that exist, the alternatives that exist, are also economically viable, and there's a whole lot of economic activities to prompt and push naturally, not artificially, because that's what they've been trying to do all this while, artificially push it, but naturally, economically push traffic to those other ports.
But yeah, yes, we have Calabar Port, River Port, Delta. It's all there, and it needs to happen naturally. But I would, just to what you said, I just want to mention my state. I mean, I'm always proud of that, Abia State. A lot is happening there, and if that trajectory can go on for the next 8 years, 10 years, I think the difference will be very clear, right? But back to infrastructure, you said development of multimodal transport systems and not simply the construction of port terminals. I think it's spot on. And what came to mind is the question I would always ask when it comes to the fact that we borrow. Everybody will say, yes, a country must borrow. There's no country that is not owing or borrowing. But my own question is always, what are we doing with the monies we're borrowing? Are we using it to build infrastructures that would actually impact the economy, I say Nigeria is a business, impact the business of Nigeria, right? And thereby, in the next 5 to 10 years, you can easily say these loans can actually be paid back by the infrastructures that you have built. So the thought behind it for me is we need to do better. These things have been spotlighted as much as certain states are stepping up. We've had conversations on this table where we talk about governors having to begin to think about how to be self-sufficient. If you think from that perspective and not always looking for how to get allocation from the center, right, it begins to also make you look at how to make or for lack of a better word, sort of emulate what's happening in Abia State and other states that are trying to do things to stand on their own, right? And then you can begin to help us get where we want to get to. But if we're not doing that, it will still be a case of these conversations are happening. Like he said, if it's not efficient for me to dock in Delta State, I will dock where I have to dock because my business comes first and it's about naira and kobo. So yes, spot on. But it's a very, I like this kind of conversation because right now it's not about the center, it's not just about local government, it touches everybody. We have to come together to decide what we want as a people and for Nigeria, not just in the immediate. In the next 10, 20 years, what should happen? And what should we do now for that effect that we want to see in the next 20 years?
I mean, what's not to like about this advocacy? It's about time we highlighted what's going on in our ports. I like that you looked at port efficiency ranking of Nigeria as a whole. That's pretty much what this is about. And benchmarked with international best practices. Underutilization of our ports, I think, is a key policy failure, which will necessitate us reimagining other major cities in Nigeria where we have ports. And also looking at other business hubs in Nigeria, like Aba, Onitsha, we look at Calabar, One, and really focus on how do we bring them up to that point where people go there for their businesses instead of everybody coming to Lagos. Then again, if you look at decentralizing port governance, developing multimodal transport links, and you look at the adoption of tech, you see that this is where, in addition to UAE that you mentioned, that's where Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire have edges over Nigeria. again, port efficiency is not just a function of policy. It's also about custom processes, regulatory coordination, regulatory coordination. And as I said earlier, tech options. I like that you said citizens do not need to know the technical details about dredging and all of that. What we need is visionary leadership, the political will to make a difference to what we have now. And truly, we need to do better.
Yeah, the last thing I was going to say, the center also has to let some things go. It's not about asking the states to do more. The center keeps holding on to certain things like maritime governance. So where we refuse to explore the way forward and instead seem stuck in unproductive ways, should we not be classed as enemies of progress?